The Galactic Confederation Xenological Assessment Committee had been in existence for precisely 17,342 standard cycles, and in all that time they had never encountered a species quite like humans. Their archives contained detailed records of over 3,647 intelligent species from across the known universe, each meticulously categorized, analyzed, and understood. Except for humans. The committee's primary chambers was a marvel of technological sophistication. Holographic displays lined curved walls of crystalline architecture, each panel capable of displaying intricate data streams from thousands of planetary systems. Translucent communication nodes pulsed with soft bioluminescent light, representing active communication channels across the galaxy. At the center of this technological wonder sat 12 representatives from the most advanced civilizations, each more bewildered than the last. Ambassador Krell-Tak of the Zorn Collective, a being composed of interconnected neural crystals that served as both body and mind, was the lead investigator of the human file. His species was known for their logic, their precision, and their ability to analyze complex systems with mathematical perfection, which made their current predicament all the more frustrating. The initial human transmission had arrived without warning, bypassing every standard communication protocol. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't carefully constructed. It was raw, unfiltered, chaotic. "Let me pull up the first contact recording," Krell-Tak announced, his crystalline appendages manipulating holographic controls. The massive central display flickered to life, revealing a scene that would be discussed in xenological conferences for generations. The video showed what appeared to be a primitive enclosed environment, later identified as a garage filled with an incomprehensible array of mechanical objects. Cables hung from ceiling supports like technological vines. Half-completed mechanical constructions sat on workbenches, each looking simultaneously ingenious and absurd. And there, in the center of this mechanical chaos, stood a human male. He was approximately 1.75 meters tall, with skin tone classified as medium brown, wearing a garment with cryptic text reading "Hold my beer," a phrase that would become legendary in diplomatic circles. The human's facial expression suggested a mixture of confidence, mischief, and a complete disregard for conventional wisdom. "Greetings, potential extraterrestrial listeners," the human announced, as if he were inviting someone over for a casual gathering. "If you're picking up this transmission, congratulations. You've just entered the most unpredictable communication channel in the universe." The Xenological Assessment Committee members exchanged bewildered glances. This was not how first contact protocols were supposed to proceed. The human continued, seemingly unaware of the galactic-level tension his transmission was generating. "I'm going to assume you're advanced enough to translate this. So here's the deal. I've been experimenting with quantum signal transmission, and I'm about 83% sure I'm talking to someone who isn't from Earth right now." Krell-Tak's translation matrix worked overtime, converting not just language but attempting to decode the layers of human communication: the casual tone, the implied confidence, the remarkable blend of scientific curiosity and complete disregard for established communication procedures. "My name is Jack," the human continued, "and I have some questions. First up, how flammable are your diplomatic ships?" The entire Galactic Confederation went silent. The initial threat assessment was swift and unequivocal. Humans were classified as a Category 5 wildcard, a designation that had never existed before, and was created specifically to describe this species. Their technological development was primitive by galactic standards. Their communication methods were erratic. Their problem-solving approaches defied all known logical frameworks. And yet there was something else. Something the committee's best analysts couldn't quite quantify. Potential. Creativity. An almost dangerous ability to look at impossibility and laugh. "We are going to have a problem," Ambassador Krell-Tak announced to the committee. "And that problem is named humanity." Little did they know how monumentally correct that statement would prove to be. Jack Rodriguez represented the quintessential human contradiction: simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary, predictable and wildly unpredictable. His family history was a tapestry of cultural complexity. His father, Miguel Rodriguez, was a second-generation Mexican-American aerospace engineer who had worked on cutting-edge NASA propulsion systems. His mother, Elena Thompson, came from a long line of Silicon Valley software developers. Jack inherited the best and most chaotic traits from both lineages. Growing up in Los Alamos, New Mexico, Jack was surrounded by scientific excellence. The National Laboratory's proximity meant dinner conversations often involved quantum mechanics, rocket science, and the occasional heated debate about theoretical engineering challenges. Where most children might have found such discussions intimidating, Jack found them fascinating. By age 10, he had already dismantled and reassembled every household appliance, much to his parents' alternating frustration and amusement. His first invention was a toaster that could also play basic musical tones, not particularly useful, but a harbinger of his future approach to problem-solving. His professional workspace at Quantum Horizon, a small but ambitious aerospace startup, reflected his internal complexity. Located in an industrial park on the outskirts of Albuquerque, the company specialized in modular repair technologies for extreme environments. Jack's specific division focused on developing adaptive repair systems that could function in unpredictable conditions: spacecraft, deep-sea environments, volcanic regions. The workshop itself was a marvel of organized chaos. Toolboxes with meticulously labeled drawers sat next to half-completed robotic prototypes. Complex schematic diagrams covered walls that should have displayed motivational posters. A coffee machine that looked like it could launch satellites stood next to a workbench cluttered with circuit boards and mechanical components. Jack's current project was a modular repair drone designed to be adaptable to multiple scenarios. Most engineers would approach such a project with rigid specifications and carefully controlled parameters. Jack's approach was different. If it can't improvise, he would say to his bemused colleagues, it's not really solving a problem. It's just following instructions. His team both respected and feared this philosophy. Respected, because Jack's unconventional methods often produced breakthrough innovations. Feared, because those breakthroughs came with an equal probability of spectacular failure. Dr. Rebecca Chen, the company's lead research director, had a standing joke about Jack. Rodriguez doesn't solve problems, she would say. He confuses them into submission. What none of them realized was that Jack's approach, his ability to see solutions where others saw only obstacles, would soon become humanity's most remarkable diplomatic tool. The universe was preparing a test, and Jack Rodriguez was about to become its most unexpected champion. The Vornak territorial dispute was not just a conflict. It was a millennia-old powder keg of galactic proportions, involving 13 distinct spacefaring civilizations and a resource-rich planetary system that everyone wanted but nobody could legally claim. The system in question, designated VX-729, contained rare quantum reactive minerals capable of revolutionizing faster than light travel. These minerals were so valuable that entire civilizations had risen and fallen in attempts to secure mining rights. The diplomatic negotiations had been ongoing for 327 standard galactic cycles, approximately 1,142 Earth years. The negotiation table was a marvel of technological mediation. Each species had a holographic representation, with translation matrices capable of converting not just language, but cultural nuances, emotional undertones, and species-specific communication protocols. Massive data displays showed territorial claims, resource distribution models, and complex algorithmic projections of potential conflict outcomes. The Zorn Collective's representative, Ambassador Kriltak, had spent the last 72 cycles developing a 17-dimensional negotiation strategy that accounted for every possible diplomatic permutation. Quantum probability matrices had been calculated. Diplomatic risk assessments had been performed. Backup contingency plans had been created for the backup contingency plans. And then Jack Rodriguez happened. Jack's experimental communication array was nothing like the sophisticated galactic communication networks. It was a Frankenstein's monster of technological adaptations: surplus military radio equipment, 3 salvaged satellite dishes, parts from a vintage microwave, and what appeared to be a modified gaming console's signal booster. When the transmission cut through, it did so with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. "Hey, anybody listening?" Jack's voice crackled through, sounding like he was more concerned about a technical glitch than initiating first contact with an entire galactic civilization. "I'm getting some weird interference on my equipment. Anyone want to help me troubleshoot?" The transmission bypassed every standard communication filter. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't formally structured. It was raw, unfiltered human communication, conversational, casual, and completely unexpected. 12 alien species simultaneously froze. Ambassador Krilltak's neural crystals began a rapid computational process that was the closest a being of his composition could come to pure shock. His translation matrix worked overtime, converting not just the words, but attempting to decode the layers of human communication. Human transmission detected, he announced to the negotiation chamber. Attempting protocol verification and communication analysis. Jack, utterly oblivious to the galactic-level drama he just interrupted, continued. Seriously, my equipment is going crazy. Anybody know anything about quantum signal dispersal? I've got some theories. The Galactic Confederation's threat assessment computers didn't just process this information. They began to smoke. Humanity had just entered the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. The Vornak crisis transformed from a diplomatic standoff to a surreal interdimensional comedy faster than light could travel. Within hours of Jack's accidental transmission, the Galactic Confederation's communication protocols experienced what could only be described as a systemic nervous breakdown. Their most advanced translation and diplomatic engagement matrices were fundamentally incapable of processing human communication methodology. Jack Rodriguez, completely unaware of the galactic-level drama he was orchestrating, continued his technical troubleshooting with the same casual energy he might use to fix a malfunctioning coffee maker. Ambassador Krilltak's communication interface struggled to maintain professional decorum. The human's communication style defied every known diplomatic protocol. Where traditional galactic negotiations involved carefully structured linguistic exchanges, intricate cultural respect matrices, and millennia of established communication frameworks, Jack spoke as if he were chatting with a slightly confused neighbor about a Wi-Fi signal. So Jack said, his voice cutting through complex quantum communication channels, "You're telling me 12 different species can't figure out how to share one planetary system? Seriously." The assembled diplomatic representatives, beings who had spent centuries developing nuanced negotiation strategies, found themselves unable to formulate a response. Dr. Rebecca Chen from Quantum Horizon, who happened to be monitoring Jack's experimental communication array, began to realize something extraordinary was happening. She recognized Jack's particular brand of problem-solving, identify the core issue, strip away unnecessary complexity, and approach the problem with radical simplicity. Has anyone, Jack continued, considered just talking to each other, like actual conversation? The concept was so monumentally straightforward that it temporarily short-circuited thousands of years of diplomatic complexity. The Creel diplomatic representative, a methane-breathing entity whose communication typically involved complex pheromonal exchanges and telepathic nuance, found itself utterly bewildered. The Silicon Nexus Collective, whose negotiation strategies involved thousand-layer quantum probability calculations, went momentarily static. Jack's approach wasn't just different. It was revolutionary. "Look," he said. "In my workshop, when we can't solve a problem, we break it down. Figure out what everyone actually wants, not what they think they want, what they actually want." And just like that, humanity introduced a concept so radically simple that it threatened to dismantle millennia of complex galactic diplomacy: genuine, direct communication. The universe held its breath. The rock-paper-scissors diplomatic resolution was not just a solution. It was a quantum leap in galactic conflict management that defied every known principle of interstellar negotiation. Jack's suggestion emerged from a lifetime of solving complex problems with seemingly ridiculous approaches. His engineering background had taught him that sometimes the most elegant solution is the one nobody expects. The Galactic Confederation's diplomatic corps, with their millennia of structured negotiations, had forgotten a fundamental truth that humans instinctively understood: true fairness sometimes requires complete randomness. The live-streamed Galactic Rock-Paper-Scissors tournament became an unprecedented media event. Species from across the known universe tuned in, watching representatives from 13 different civilizations prepare to determine territorial rights through a game most of them had never heard of. The Zorn representative, Ambassador Krilltak, selected rock, a choice representing geological stability in their crystal-based culture. The Creel diplomatic team chose paper, symbolizing their belief in smooth, adaptable boundaries. The silicon-based Nexus Collective went with scissors, representing their culture's appreciation for precise cutting and division. What no one anticipated was Jack's remote participation. At the exact moment of the tournament, Jack was simultaneously troubleshooting 3 different pieces of equipment in his workshop. His communication array, his experimental repair drone, and most critically his temperamental espresso machine were all demanding his attention. The quantum communication link captured his split-second decision. His hand movement, captured by multiple sensor arrays, introduced a level of chaotic probability that mathematicians would debate for centuries. "Wait," Jack said mid-transmission, realizing something momentous was happening. "Did I just accidentally solve an interstellar conflict while trying to prevent my espresso machine from exploding?" The statistical improbability of his actions reset the entire negotiation framework. Quantum probability matrices went into overdrive. Diplomatic risk assessment computers began generating error messages that would become legendary in technological circles. Ambassador Kreltak's response was both a surrender and a revelation: humans are not a species. They are a force of probabilistic nature. The galaxy collectively understood that everything they knew about conflict resolution had just been fundamentally transformed. The aftermath of the Vornak system resolution sent shockwaves through galactic civilization that would be felt for generations. The diplomatic model Jack Rodriguez had inadvertently created became known as the Rodriguez Protocol, a negotiation framework that emphasized randomization, direct communication, and the radical concept of treating complex problems with unexpected simplicity. Quantum historians would later identify this moment as a pivotal point in intergalactic relations. The Vornak system, once a potential flashpoint for devastating conflict, became a model of cooperative resource management. Mining rights were distributed with a combination of fairness and unpredictability that defied traditional diplomatic approaches. Jack Rodriguez remained blissfully unaware of his galactic-level impact. His daily routine at Quantum Horizon continued unchanged. He still spent his days tinkering with experimental repair systems, debugging complex technological challenges, and maintaining his notoriously temperamental espresso machine. Dr. Rebecca Chen compiled an extensive report documenting the entire incident. Her analysis became a cornerstone text in diplomatic and xenological studies across multiple civilizations. The report's conclusion was both a scientific assessment and a philosophical revelation. Humans do not solve problems through traditional linear methodologies. They approach challenges as a combination of creative destruction, intuitive engineering, and what can only be described as controlled chaos. Their greatest strength lies not in technological sophistication, but in their ability to look at complex systems and see opportunities where others see obstacles. Ambassador Kreltak's final report to the Galactic Confederation was a masterpiece of diplomatic understatement. Recommendation: classify humans not as a species but as a force of nature. Approach with maximum caution, minimum expectations, and an open mind. They will surprise you. Always. The Galactic Confederation's threat assessment protocols were permanently altered. Where once they had complex multi-layered risk evaluation matrices, they now included a simple addendum: potential human involvement. A classification that simultaneously represented maximum risk and maximum potential. And somewhere in New Mexico, Jack Rodriguez was just getting started, completely unaware that he had just redefined humanity's place in the universe. The galaxy would never be the same.